In the middle of the fair, she was ignored as if she didn't even exist. Until he stopped everything. A simple gesture, but so powerful that it spread through villages and towns. Subscribe to the channel and discover how this attitude transformed solitude into a symbol of unity. The São Benedito do Recôncavo fair was bustling under the morning heat. Between colorful stalls and vendors' shouts, Dona Zuleide walked with difficulty, carrying a bag of used clothes. Her 72 years weighed on her hunched shoulders, but what hurt most was her wounded dignity. She had lost everything in the flood that devastated the small farm where she had lived for as long as she could remember. Now, she needed to trade the last material memories for food. Her stomach had been growling for 2 days. "Would you give me some flour for these clothes?" she asked the first vendor, who pretended not to hear. "I have good dresses, look, they still fit," she insisted at the next stall. The man glanced sideways and replied, "That stuff isn't even good as a floor rag, old woman." Some people around laughed. A child pointed. "Look at the old beggar." Dona Zuleide swallowed her tears and continued, stumbling in her own shadows. Behind an herb stall, Sebastian was watching, tall, black, with hands calloused from working in the fields and on drums. His white shirt contrasted with his dark skin, marked by years under the Recôncavo sun. He was a reserved man, respected in the Quilombola community of Sapucaia, a few kilometers away. He had come to the fair to sell honey and cassava, as he did every month. His attentive eyes followed the old lady, noticing each gesture of contempt she received. He leaned on the Jurema staff he always carried and breathed deeply, like someone making an important decision. He left his merchandise under his nephew's care and began walking toward the woman. "5 reais for the coat," a young man was saying mockingly, while others laughed, "but only if the lady dances here for us to see." Silent tears ran down Dona Zuleide's marked face as she was turning to leave when she felt a presence beside her. Sebastian was there, imposing in his silence. He looked fixedly at the group of young men, who instantly stopped laughing. Then, without saying a word, he took some notes from his pocket and extended them to the lady. 200 reais for the clothes," he said in a deep, calm voice. A murmur ran through the fair. It was much more than those rags were worth. Dona Zuleide looked incredulously at the money, then at the man. "But sir, this is too much," she stammered. Sebastian shook his head. "It's the fair price." He took the bag from her hands, removed the clothes one by one, examined them with care and respect. Then, to everyone's surprise, he returned the bag to the lady. "The clothes remain yours. The money is for the story that each piece carries." Silence took over that part of the fair. Some lowered their heads, ashamed. Sebastian then addressed the vendors around. "Those who are hungry have no choice. Those who have choices should remember that." His voice wasn't loud, but it carried a natural authority that made everyone pay attention. He took one of the mangoes he was selling at his own stall and offered it to Dona Zuleide. "Eat, ma'am. Afterward, we'll talk about work at the São Benedito festival. We need experienced hands to make coconut sweets." And there, before astonished eyes, the old lady bit into the fruit, letting the juice run down her chin, unashamed of her hunger. News of what happened spread quickly through the fair and the city. "Did you see what the Quilombola did?" they whispered, some with admiration, others with suspicion. São Benedito do Recôncavo never had a good relationship with the Sapucaia community. Old stories of conflicts over land and water had created a chasm between the two places. "These black folks always wanting attention," said the owner of the small market, Mr. Adelmo, known for his influence in the small town. "I bet he has hidden interests." But for Dona Zuleide, none of that mattered at that moment. For the first time in weeks, she wouldn't sleep hungry. The money would be enough to secure a roof for a few days before the eviction deadline was met. She had exactly 1 week to find another place to live, or she would end up on the streets. As she tucked the notes into her bra, her fingers touched the medal of Our Lady that she had carried since her youth. She whispered a prayer of thanks, not knowing that Sebastian's gesture was just the beginning of a transformation that would affect not only her life, but the entire relationship between São Benedito and Sapucaia. The sun was already setting when Dona Zuleide arrived at the small mud house where she lived by favor. The peeling walls and leaking roof looked even sadder that afternoon. She sat in the rocking chair on the porch and counted the money again, as if fearing it might disappear. With that amount, She could rent a room for a month, maybe 2 if she economized on food. Her thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of Ritinia, a 9-year-old girl, the neighbor's granddaughter, who always appeared to hear stories. "Grandma Zuleide, is it true that a man from the forest gave you money today?" she asked with eyes wide with curiosity. The news had already reached the children's ears, transforming into something almost mythical. Donna Zuleide smiled and pulled the girl close. "It wasn't a man from the forest. It was a man of respect who treated me like a person when others saw me as nothing." Ritinia sat on the packed earth floor. "Mama said he's from the Quilombos, that he has black magic." The old lady shook her head, disappointed with the prejudice that was already infiltrating the little girl's mind. "No magic, child. What he has is a heart, something that many people here forgot they carry in their chest." The next morning the fair was different. Curious looks followed Donna Zuleide as she walked between the stalls, this time not to beg, but to buy a little flour and beans. She felt strange with those looks, some of shame, others of sudden respect. She looked for Sebastião's stall, but didn't find him. "He only comes once a month," a vendor informed, "but he left a message. He said he expects you at the São Benedito festival for the coconut sweets work." Donna Zuleide nodded, grateful for the opportunity. For years she hadn't participated in the patron saints festival for lack of resources and also out of shame for her situation. While choosing some tomatoes, she noticed that the vendor didn't want to accept her money. "Leave it, ma'am. It's a gift," said the woman, avoiding her gaze. It wasn't genuine kindness, thought Zuleide. It was guilt, but she accepted, because necessity doesn't choose the origin of help. In Sapucaia, Sebastião was working on the honey harvest, an activity he had learned from his grandfather and now taught to the young people in the community. Among the hives, he thought of the lady from the fair. He remembered his own grandmother, who had passed away 5 years ago, a victim of the neglect of the only hospital in the region, which had refused to treat her because she was a quilombola. "Seba, the people from town are saying you challenged Mr. Adelmo," said Jurema, his sister, while helping with the harvest. Sebastião continued his work, without altering his rhythm. "I didn't challenge anyone. I just did what was right." Jurema sighed. "You know he controls everything there, from the city hall to who sells at the fair. He's already spreading that we're going to invade their lands." Sebastião finally stopped and looked at his sister. "Let them talk. Our fight was never with weapons. It was with dignity." That night at the community meeting, the main topic was the approaching São Benedito festival and the participation they had been invited to have, thanks to the intervention of Father Joachim, recently arrived at the parish. "It's an opportunity to show who we really are," said the community leader, "and to sell our products directly, without intermediaries." Everyone agreed, despite the fears. Sebastião, seated at the back, listened in silence. He didn't mention the episode with Donna Zuleide, but he was already planning how that encounter could be the beginning of a long-needed bridge. On the eve of the festival, Donna Zuleide received an unexpected visit. Father Joachim, a northeastern man from Alagoas who had taken over the parish a few months ago, knocked on her door late in the afternoon. Tall, thin, with graying hair and a gentle smile, the priest brought with him a basket of fruits and breads. "Donna Zuleide, I came to invite you personally to coordinate the sweet stall tomorrow," he said after greetings. "Are you sure, sir? There are more capable people in town," she replied, surprised. The priest sat in the offered chair and looked around, noting the extreme simplicity of the place. "You have experience and respect, and we need someone who knows how to talk with the people from Sapucaia, who will be responsible for the honey." Upon hearing the name of the Quilombola community, Donna Zuleide understood. It was more than an invitation to work, it was a call to mediate. "You know that many people here don't like them," she commented, testing the priest's reaction, "and you also know that we need to change that. The church should be a bridge, not a wall," he replied, firm in his mission. That night, Donna Zuleide couldn't sleep. The deadline to leave the house was expiring in 3 days, and she still had nowhere to go. The money given by Sebastião would be enough for temporary rent, but the property owners in town refused to rent to an elderly woman with no fixed income. Her greatest fear was ending up on the street, or worse, in the municipal shelter, known for its inhumane treatment of the elderly. Working at the festival could earn her some extra money, but it wouldn't solve her housing problem. She got up and went to the small chest where she kept her few belongings. Among them, an album of old photographs, with images of the farm where she had lived all her life, until the flood took it away. In one of the photos, her late husband smiled next to a jackfruit tree, proud of the land they cultivated. "Zay, what would you do now?" she murmured to the faded image. She then remembered that her husband always said that the land belongs to those who work it and respect it. It was with this thought that she finally fell asleep, lulled by the singing of crickets and the tenuous hope that the next day brought. The central square of São Benedito do Recôncavo was transforming for the patron saint's festival. Colorful banners stretched between the century-old trees, stalls sprouted like mushrooms after the rain, and the smell of delicacies already filled the morning air. Dona Zuleide arrived early, wearing her best dress, a faded blue with long sleeves. She went directly to the sweets stall, where 3 other women were already preparing the copper pot for the coconut sweets. "Good morning," she greeted, receiving mixed looks of curiosity and respect. "Father Joachim said you're going to coordinate the sweets," said Carmina, known for her sharp tongue. "If you need help, we're here." The tone wasn't one of kindness, but of a veiled challenge. Dona Zuleide just nodded and began organizing the ingredients, putting everything in its proper place as she had done all her life. Shortly after, a group from Sapucaia arrived, carrying jars of honey, baskets of cassava, and musical instruments. Among them, Sebastião, who walked at the front, respectfully greeting the local residents, many of whom averted their gaze. Upon seeing Dona Zuleide, he went directly to her. "Good morning, ma'am. We brought the honey for the coconut sweets," he said, placing 2 large jars on the table. Their eyes met and a silent understanding passed between them. "Thank you, son. It will be delicious," she replied, lightly touching the strong arm of the man. That small gesture did not go unnoticed by those present. Carmina leaned toward another helper and whispered something, laughing softly afterward. Dona Zuleide pretended not to notice, but her heart tightened. The festival progressed, and the sweet stall became a success. Dona Zuleide's coconut sweets made with honey from Sapucaia attracted lines of buyers. At noon, Father Joachim appeared to check how everything was going. "I see the partnership is working well," he commented, satisfied. At that moment, Mr. Adelmo, owner of the small market and an influential figure in town, approached. A corpulent man with a graying mustache and penetrating gaze, he was known for controlling local commerce with an iron hand. "Father, we need to talk," he said, completely ignoring Dona Zuleide. "It's not appropriate to mix things this way. The people from Sapucaia have always caused problems." Father Joachim remained calm but was firm. "Adelmo, they are all children of God and citizens with the same rights. The festival is for everyone." The merchant narrowed his eyes. "You're new here. You don't know the history, but you'll soon learn how things work." He walked away, but not before casting a threatening look at Dona Zuleide. In the afternoon, when the square was already crowded, the cultural presentation from Sapucaia began. Drums and berimbaus created hypnotic music, while young people danced in a circle, telling through movements the story of the Quilombo's resistance. Dona Zuleide watched fascinated, remembering that as a child her grandmother would secretly take her to see these dances. At that time they were forbidden in the city, considered devil's work. Seeing that cultural expression now in the open square was like witnessing a miracle. While watching, she noticed that some people from the town were beginning to approach, curious. Children imitated the steps, elderly swayed their heads to the rhythm. For a brief moment, the barriers seemed to dissipate. Sebastião noticed the subtle change in the atmosphere and, taking advantage of the moment, invited people to join the circle. Some hesitated, but Father Joachim set the example, entering the circle. Slowly, others followed. "Dona Zuleide, come too," called Sebastião, extending his hand. She hesitated, aware of the looks, but something inside her, a courage dormant from years of submission, awakened. She entered the circle, awkward at first, then finding in her elderly body memories of ancient dances. People applauded, some laughed with genuine pleasure. For one magical moment, São Benedito and Sapucaia were one community. The joy lasted briefly. A crash, followed by screams, interrupted the dance. One of the stalls, precisely the one selling products from Sapucaia, was in flames. "Fire! Help!" people shouted, running in all directions. Sebastião and other quilombolas ran to contain the fire, while Father Joachim organized a human chain to pass buckets of water. Donna Zuleide, despite her advanced age, joined the effort. It was then that she noticed, away from the confusion, Mr. Adelmo talking with two young men who worked for him. He was smiling. The fire had not been accidental, she was sure. Hours later, with the fire controlled and the festival partially resumed, Donna Zuleide sat exhausted on a bench in the square. Sebastião approached and sat beside her. "You saw, didn't you?" he asked, without needing to specify. She nodded. "I saw, but we have no way to prove it." They sat in silence for a few minutes, observing the square where groups from Sapucaia and São Benedito were now clearly separated again. "Hatred is like fire," Sebastião finally said. "Easy to light, difficult to control." Donna Zuleide sighed. "And it destroys everything in its path." She looked at the starry sky, then at the strong face of the man beside her. "Tomorrow I have to leave my house. I have nowhere to go." It was the first time she admitted her complete situation to someone. Sebastião remained silent for a moment. "In Sapucaia, no one is without a roof," he said finally. "But I know that leaving São Benedito would be difficult for you." Donna Zuleide felt tears in her eyes. Her whole life was in that city that now rejected her. "Sometimes, son, we have no choice." That night, upon returning home, she found an envelope under her door. Inside, a notice. The eviction deadline had been brought forward. She needed to leave by morning, not in 3 days as agreed. The paper trembled in her hands. It was Mr. Adelmo's revenge for her having publicly allied with the people of Sapucaia. She sat on the bed and, for the first time in years, allowed herself to cry without reservations. Not out of sadness, but out of indignation. Something was awakening in her, a strength she thought lost. "I will not bow," she said to the empty room. "Not this time." And with that resolution she began to arrange her few belongings, not yet knowing where she would go, but certain that it would not be in surrender. The rain was falling lightly when Donna Zuleide finished arranging her bundle. So little to carry after 72 years of life. Some clothes, the photo album, the medal of Our Lady, a clay pot that had belonged to her mother. Her wrinkled fingers caressed the edge of the pot, remembering the beans that her mother cooked on Sundays, when they still had land and dignity. Silent tears ran down her marked face as she put the last object in the cloth bundle. She looked one last time at the peeling walls that had been her shelter in recent months. They weren't much, but they were what she had. Now, not even that anymore. The future stretched before her like an unknown road without signs. She sighed deeply, adjusted the scarf on her head, and walked to the door. She opened it slowly, as if saying goodbye, and came face to face with Ritinha, soaked, waiting on the porch, her curly hair stuck to her face by the rain. "Grandma Zuleide," she said breathlessly, "there are people in the square wanting to talk to you, many people." Donna Zuleide frowned, suspicious. "What people, child?" she asked, holding the bundle against her chest, like someone protecting the last piece of herself. "The man from the Quilombo, the one who bought your clothes, and the priest, and a lot of people from Sapucaia, and also from São Benedito," replied Ritinha, her eyes shining with excitement. Donna Zuleide felt her heart race, a mix of hope and apprehension. Was it a trap? More humiliation? She took an old and faded shawl to protect herself from the rain, and, after a moment of hesitation, followed the girl, carrying her bundle like someone carrying their own life. The square was full, despite the persistent drizzle that fell like a thin curtain over the city. On one side, residents of São Benedito, some with curious expressions, others visibly uncomfortable. On the other, people from Sapucaia, proud in their dignity, many wearing white, the color that symbolized their faith. In the center, as mediators of that unlikely meeting, were Father Joachim with his black cassock sprinkled with rain, Sebastião in his impeccable white shirt, and, to Donna Zuleide's surprise, Mr. Adelmo, visibly displeased, his face red like someone who was forced to be there. When they saw her approaching, a murmur ran through the crowd, like wind in dry foliage. Some women pointed, others lowered their gaze. Sebastião stepped forward and, in a gesture that mixed respect and protection, took her bundle, relieving her of the weight. Their eyes met, and she saw there something she hadn't seen in a long time: recognition. "What's happening here?" she asked. her trembling voice betraying the contained emotion. Father Joachim took 2 steps forward, the fine rain sprinkling on his thin face. "Dona Zuleide," he began, his voice projected so that everyone could hear. "It has come to my attention that you are being unfairly evicted, with the deadline brought forward without proper notice." He looked directly at Mr. Adelmo, who averted his gaze, nervously fiddling with the hat in his hands. "We also discovered that yesterday's fire at the fair was not accidental, but a deliberate act to sabotage the rapprochement between our communities." A murmur of indignation ran through the crowd. Mr. Adelmo cleared his throat, his face now red with contained anger. "I have nothing to do with this," he defended himself, looking around as if seeking allies. "As for the house, the owner has the right to ask for the property whenever he wants. It's business, nothing personal." He was interrupted by a firm voice that came from the back of the crowd. "I am the owner," said a man who stepped forward, making his way through the people. It was Jonas, son of the former owner, who worked in the capital and rarely appeared in town. "And I did not authorize any deadline advancement. Someone forged my signature on this document." He showed a paper, protecting it from the rain. All eyes turned to Adelmo, who visibly paled, drops of sweat mixing with the rain on his broad forehead. "Probably a misunderstanding," he stammered, taking a step back. Dona Zuleide watched the scene, astonished, her hands trembling not just from the cold of the rain. She didn't understand why so many people had mobilized for her, an unimportant old woman, someone who until a few days ago was invisible to most of those people. It was then that Sebastião asked to speak, raising his hand in a gesture that immediately attracted all eyes. "I want to say something," he announced, his deep voice cutting through the humid morning air like a well-sharpened axe. 2 days ago, during the San Benedito festival, while we were dancing together in this same square, I saw something I thought I'd never see in my life. Our communities united. For a moment, brief as it was, we weren't from San Benedito or Sapucaia, we weren't white or black, we weren't rich or poor. We were just people sharing joy, music, food." He paused, his eyes roaming the faces around, connecting with each person. "Then came the fire, and with it returned the division, the fear, the distrust. But fire also has the power to illuminate truths we prefer to keep in the shadows. And it clearly showed that some benefit from keeping us separate, from feeding hatred and prejudice between us." He pointed directly at Mr. Adelmo, without fear or hesitation. "While we fight among ourselves for crumbs, they control everything. Commerce, prices, who works and who doesn't, even who has the right to a roof over their head." A murmur of agreement ran through the crowd, growing like water that finds its way between stones. Father Joachim seized the moment, placing himself beside Sebastião. "Brothers and sisters," his voice had the cadence of one accustomed to preaching, "the time has come to heal old wounds. San Benedito and Sapucaia are not enemy communities, they are sisters, separated by prejudices and manipulations that have served only petty interests over generations." He turned to Dona Zuleide, extending his hand for her to approach. And everything began to change with a simple gesture of dignity, when this man, he pointed to Sebastião, recognized the value of this woman whom many of us ignored or despised. Dona Zuleide felt her legs weaken with emotion. Sebastião held her arm, supporting her discreetly, a gesture that did not go unnoticed by the crowd. Mr. Adelmo, seeing that he was losing control of the situation, tried one last card. "This is a conspiracy!" he shouted, pointing to Sebastião and Father Joachim. "They're trying to defame me. That quilombola there is manipulating you to take our lands. That's what they've always wanted." At that moment, something unexpected happened. Antonio, one of the young men who worked for Adelmo in the small market, stepped forward, trembling but determined. "It's not true," he said, his voice initially weak, gaining firmness with each word. "It was you who ordered us to set fire to the stall yesterday. And it was you who forged the eviction paper for Dona Zuleide. I saw it. And I can't stand being an accomplice to these evils anymore." The silence that followed was deafening. In a few minutes, years of manipulation and lies crumbled like a sandcastle hit by the tide. People looked at each other, amazed, processing that revelation. Some women made the sign of the cross. Others nodded their heads, as if finally understanding an old enigma. Sebastião raised his hand, asking for calm when he saw that some men from Sapucaia were advancing threateningly toward Mr. Adelmo. "We didn't come seeking revenge," he said with authority. "That's not what we need now. We came to propose a new beginning." He looked at Donna Zuleide and smiled, a smile that lit up his face like sun after a storm. "This lady showed us that dignity has no price. That respect is earned with gestures, not empty words. Now we want to show that unity has no borders, that it's possible to build bridges where there were once walls." He then addressed everyone, turning slowly to include each person present. "I propose that together we build a space that belongs to everyone, a community fair on the border between our lands, where we can trade without intermediaries, celebrate our cultures without fear, and learn from each other. A place that is neither São Benedito's nor Sapucaia's, but all of ours." Father Joachim agreed enthusiastically. "The church owns a piece of land that lies exactly on the border between the two communities. It's small but enough to start. We donate this land to the cause, and we can begin today with volunteer work from both communities." People looked at each other, hesitant at first, then with growing enthusiasm. The idea was simple but powerful, a place of meeting, of fair trade, of celebration. Jonas, the owner of the house, approached Donna Zuleide, hat in hand as a sign of respect. "You can stay in the house as long as you need," he said. "I had not authorized any eviction, and when the community fair is ready, you'll have your own space there to sell your coconut sweets that my father loved so much." She tried to thank him, but emotion choked her voice. She limited herself to shaking the man's hand, with tears in her eyes that mixed with the raindrops. In the days that followed, something extraordinary happened in São Benedito do Recôncavo. People who had never exchanged more than suspicious glances worked side by side, erecting stalls, preparing the ground, sharing stories and food. Hands calloused by work in the fields, and more delicate hands from the city united in the common effort. Mr. Adelmo, demoralized and without support, closed the small market and moved to the capital, taking with him his son and bitterness. Other merchants, previously fearful of his power, now joined the community fair project, seeing in it an opportunity for a fresh start. Donna Zuleide, despite her age, was at the center of everything, coordinating, advising, mediating minor conflicts with the wisdom of one who had seen many tides change. "You know both sides," Father Joachim would say. "That's why you're the perfect person to be our bridge." And she accepted, proud of that role she had never imagined playing. Sebastião visited her daily, bringing fresh honey and stories from Sapucaia. They would sit on the porch of the small house, now secure, and talk for hours about the past, the present, and the future they were building. A deep friendship grew between them, based on mutual respect and the understanding that they had both been instruments of a transformation greater than themselves. "You know, son," she said one afternoon, as they peeled cassava together for the first celebration of the new fair, "when you gave me that money at the fair, I thought you were just helping me in that difficult moment. I didn't imagine you were planting such a large seed." He smiled, his skilled hands continuing the work. "How you were the seed, Mum. I just watered it." 3 months later, the Unity Fair, as it was christened, officially opened. A circular space, with stalls arranged so that there was no beginning or end, symbolizing continuity and equality. In the center, a young tree had been planted, a yellow ipé that would one day cover everything with its generous shade and golden flowers. The inauguration was a celebration that lasted 3 days, with typical foods, dances, music, and many shared stories. People who once crossed the street to avoid meeting now shared the same table, the same bread, the same dream. Donna Zuleide presided over the sweets stall, now famous throughout the region. By her side, 3 young apprentices, 2 from São Benedito and 1 from Sapucaia, learning not just recipes, but life lessons. "The secret isn't in the sugar or the honey," she would say. "It's in the hands that prepare with love and respect." On the night of the 3rd day, when most had already left, Donna Zuleide and Sebastião sat under the stars, on improvised benches near the newly planted ipé, observing what they had helped build. "I never thought I would live to see this," she confessed, her voice choked with emotion. "I thought I would die alone and forgotten, like so many old people out there." Sebastião took her wrinkled hand in his, in a gesture of filial affection that had become habitual between them. "You will never be alone again." He looked at the fair, where some lights still shone, the last vendors organizing their stalls. "And you will never be forgotten. What we did here will continue after us. Donna Zuleide nodded, feeling a peace she hadn't known for many years. "I know what makes me happiest," she asked, looking at a group of children still playing tag between the stalls. Seeing the children of São Benedito and Sapucaia playing together, not knowing that we were once separated by fear and prejudice, for them, this is natural, as it always should have been. Sebastião smiled, following her gaze. That's the true legacy. Not the fair, not the stalls, but the seed of unity we planted in them. Years passed. The Unity Fair became famous throughout the Recôncavo Baiano, attracting visitors and inspiring neighboring communities to create similar projects. Donna Zuleide, now almost 80, remained active, though she left the heavy work to the younger ones. She lived in a small house built for her by the community, close to the fair, where she could observe daily the fruit of that simple gesture that had transformed so many lives. The yellow ipé, now taller, was beginning to bloom, filling the place with beauty each spring. One December afternoon, as they prepared for the end-of-year celebration, Ritinha, now a young woman of 16, came to visit her. Grandma Zuleide, she called her that even though she wasn't her biological granddaughter. "I came to get you for the meeting. We're going to decide the theme for this year's celebration." The elderly woman smiled, her eyes still lively in her now more wrinkled face. "Tell them I trust your judgment, my child. These old bones need rest today." Ritinha sat beside her on the porch, the same place where years before she had received stories from the elder. "But without you, it's no fun. It was with your story that everything began." Donna Zuleide caressed the young woman's face, noting in her traits of both São Benedito and Sapucaia, fruit of the marriages that now united the two communities. "The story isn't mine, nor Sebastião's. It belongs to all who chose to see beyond differences, who dared to believe we could be better together than apart." She looked at the yellow ipé, now a robust tree in the center of the fair. "Go, tell them to choose seeds as the theme, because that's what we all are. Seeds of a future we plant today, but whose flowers perhaps only our grandchildren will see." When Ritinha left, Donna Zuleide closed her eyes, letting the late afternoon sun warm her face. She remembered that day at the fair years ago, when she walked humiliated amid laughter and contemptuous looks. How a single gesture of dignity had triggered such a profound transformation. Dignity, she thought, is like water to dry land. It seems to disappear when it touches the ground, but it actually penetrates deeply, nourishing roots we don't see. She opened her eyes and saw Sebastião approaching, bringing fresh honey and smiles, and she knew, with the certainty that only age brings, that neither of them would be forgotten, that their stories would live on in the coconut sweets, in the dances, in the children who now grew up without knowing the bitter taste of division, and that, more than any monument, was the true meaning of eternity. If this story touched your heart, don't let it end here. Share it with those who need to hear about unity and dignity. Leave your like so that other stories like this can flourish, and comment on which moment moved you the most. Like Donna Zuleide and Sebastião, we can plant seeds of transformation with simple gestures every day.